frequently watch Tunisian movies, or if you have a favorite Tunisian movie or anything like that.
Yes.
Okay.
A favorite one?
Yeah.
Bootheina.
Okay, interesting. When was it released?
I think 2 years ago.
Okay, okay. And Umayma?
I don't really like watch frequently Tunisian movies, but I try my best to go to the cinema and attend. And my favorite is Lady.
Me too. Love that movie.
It was epic and it was really nice to watch.
Yeah. Anyone else? Fadwa, go
My
ahead.
favorite movie is A Peine pour les yeux. It was released 3 years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago, and I love it because I relate to it. It talks about the teenager experience, the way the teenager wants to free himself from all rules and.
We'll see. Actually, we're going to talk about that movie and we'll see where exactly it fits within the Tunisian cinematic identity. What about festivals or cinematic or cinema concert organizations? Do you know any?
The GCC.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to talk about the history of the GCC and also recent cinematic organizations.
This will be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start with the 1960s, which is the decade that I chose to call the construction of the Tunisian cinematic identity. So the Tunisian cinematic identity in the 60s could be called transcultural. Transcultural as in the sense we are using foreign techniques, the others' techniques to explore our own identity. Because at that time there was no Tunisian cinematic aesthetic. So most of the directors, 6 major directors, 4 men and 2 women, actually studied cinematography in Paris. Because we didn't have cinema schools or cinema clubs at the time. So the movies had this this Tunisian flair. They focused on local reality, and they were mainly a product of the euphoria of independence. They were always about the creation of this new nation and this new identity. But since we didn't have our own tools, the movies, the identity, the cinematic identity, had no choice but to be transcultural, to be explored through the lens and the tools of the other. But it is very local. It is very Tunisian in its stories, in its portrayal of characters, in its motifs. But the aesthetic and the technique were completely foreign. Also, a major event in the 60s is the start of the Carthage Film Festival, later known as GCC, and it started in 1966. And here I would like to point out that the GCC, from the beginning and until now, incorporates the symbol of Tanit as the logo for the festival. And does anyone know what Tanit is? Or who she is? Yes, she is a Phoenician goddess that was later appropriated by the Romans who invaded Carthage. So she continued to exist throughout early history of Tunisia, and then she reappeared in this new form as the symbol of our new Tunisian cinematic identity, which continues until now.
And I like how the shadow of the woman in the poster kind of looks like.
Yeah, they're very innovative,
Yeah.
recent, especially in the last few years, with the way they try to incorporate Tanit into the posters of GCC. The movie I chose to talk about from the 60s is called L'aube, or The Dawn, by Omar Khalifi. It was released in 1966. And the title itself, the title is everything I said in one word. It's the dawn of a new nation, the dawn of a new cinematic identity, the dawn of new aesthetic, of a new way of expressing our Tunisian identity that is recently born out of the independence. The movie is set in the colonial period, precisely in 1954. It follows 3 main characters from different backgrounds. One of them is a student, one of them is an unemployed man, and one of them is bourgeois. And all 3 of them associate themselves with the revolution and fighting against the French colonizer, but in different ways. The bourgeois does it because he feels like his privilege has blinded him from what other people are struggling for, and he wants to be kind of relevant. The student does it because he is encouraged by his professors, by the things he reads. For him, it's an intellectual endeavor. And the working man, because of the social issues that he faces, the poverty, the oppression, the racism from the French, and we see here that the movie uses the word zoufri a lot, which comes from les ouvriers. And the movie, of course, honors the martyrs of the revolution, but it ends actually with all three main characters dead, to show how bleak it was during the colonization period. So all three characters die because, as I said, the movie is set in 1954, and the independence won't happen until a few years later. So an important aspect of the 60s, the late 60s particularly, is SETPEC. SETPEC is a production company, Tunisian company for cinematic production and expansion. It was inaugurated by President Bourguiba, and its purpose was to encourage young directors and cinematographers to create movies, and also to import foreign movies into the country. But keep in mind, at this point, President Bourguiba has been president for at least 10 years. And he inaugurated this company, and therefore there will be, in the 70s, this sense of controlled freedom, this sense of a dual identity, of a dual cinematic identity. And that is why I chose to call the 70s, I'm sorry, am I going too fast? No.
It's perfect.
A schism in the Tunisian cinematic identity, as in there's a split. There's movies that were approved by SETPEC and movies that were produced independently, either inside the country or outside of the country. So the identity here was kind of multicultural, because we started developing our own aesthetic, our own techniques, we started experimenting, we already focused on the local reality and the local issues, and then we move on to our own techniques, but there's also still the influence, the outside influence. But now, we're not using those tools to look at ourselves. We're incorporating those tools, those cinematic tools, in order to create our own cinematic identity. And that is why it's a multicultural identity. We have Western techniques, especially from Europe, where they focused a lot on psychoanalysis, and the movies felt like each character symbolizes a stage in the psyche of a certain identity. Some of them represent schizophrenia, some of them represent paranoia, some of them represent the id. There's also the American sense of the techniques of focusing on action rather than plot, on events rather than character development. And of course, in the 70s, Tunisian movies were full of the Egyptian melodrama. The drama was on steroids at that point. Sorry, go back one second.
Yeah.
And also, we witnessed in the 70s the spread of amateur film clubs around the country, and keep this in mind because it will lead to the rise of something that is unprecedented in the entire world. But first, before we're talking about the unprecedented event, I'm going to leave you in suspense about that for just a second. I'm going to talk about how the movies in the 70s, the outside of SETPEC movies, were counter-narrative. They were against the propagandist messages produced by SETPEC and approved by Bourguiba. They addressed the disillusionment of the young, the failure of the socialist experiment, because we had hopes that we can become this socialist country that provides equality to everyone, and equal distribution of wealth and all those socialist values. And also, a recurring motif was also the journey from the countryside to the capital, because at that point, that was the dream. But here, in the counter-narratives movies, is actually a critique of Bourguiba, because many people at the time believed that he focused too much on the coast, and he developed the coast, ignoring completely the countryside, or the region that we call Dhahir, like the Dhahir Tunsi. Right? So one of the movies that was a counter-narrative is Sijnen, by Abdelatif and Ammar, produced in 1973. And again, the titles are very telling in the Tunisian movies in this era, because Sijnen literally translates to two prisons. It's also the name of a village. And we see the character journeys from that village to the capital. But keep in mind that the word two prisons is actually also a reference to our political situation at that time, because we escaped the prison of colonialism and we ended up in the prison of a dictatorship, basically someone who declared presidency of life. So we were a nation trapped between two prisons. And here, as I told you, the spread of amateur film clubs led to an emergent female director, Salma Bakar. She was a frequent attender of the amateur film club in Hamim Lamf, and she was the director of the first feature film to be directed by a woman, which was called Fatma 75. And it was the first film ever to be directed by a woman, even before Europe and the Americas. But it was not released in Tunisia, it was released in France. And it was called a pioneer film, and it addressed women's rights and censorship. The movie was banned from many Tunisian cinemas, and the setback refused to import it because they were in charge of importing foreign films. But it was still an innovation. It was still a statement of a movie.
So now to build on what Wael was saying, I will move to talk about the 80s. Here I gave it the title, The Idiosyncratic Cinematic Identity. You can move to the next slide. Okay, I will start by giving you a brief sociocultural summary of the context that was going on in the 80s. Here, presumably the economy was crashing at the time, so the government had to take certain measures, which led to the increase of bread prices, which in turn led to riots and protests performed by the people, the Tunisian people. And here it's important to mention that by the end of the 80s, in 1987, President Bourguiba was overthrown by Ben Ali, and which actually afterwards led to the rise of the Islamic tendency movement because they were unleashed from prison. Okay. So the 80s Tunisian cinematography at the time actually, in the midst of this political conundrum, failed to give an account of the political context and chose, maybe perhaps they chose to focus more on people issues, social issues, issues like sexuality, sex, gender equality, education, and whatnot. And in doing so, they adopted a Tunisian aesthetic. They had to let go of the French influence and the multicultural aspect that we was discussing, and they moved towards personal narratives. They let go of the ideological stance, and they focused more on subjectivity, individualism, and thus the idiosyncratic nature of this cinema. That's why I gave it that name. Here I took the example of the movie Man of Ashes. This movie actually, it was directed by Nouri Bouzid, and it was produced in 1986. It's a movie that discusses homosexuality, of course, quite implicitly, because it's a taboo at the time, even now, still, so they can't really just put it out there, but you can tell from how the characters act and their dynamics. Also, it discusses sexual abuse, because the protagonist has these flashbacks where he clearly was abused as a child. And it discusses just sexuality as a whole. In fact, the protagonist is expected to get married to a woman, and there's a particular scene that affected me. I cannot show you the movie because I cannot. But there was this scene where he was walking through the corridors and he was remembering what his mother was saying. She was basically saying that I cannot rest or cannot sleep until I know that my son has had sex with a woman. Basically, just like that. Yeah. So, of course, sexuality in Tunisia is a taboo. It is illegal for same-sex couples to be a couple. And there are multiple movies who address this issue, this issue. Man of Ashes and those movies. Now to talk about another problem, because I'm discussing here the problems that I mentioned, like sexuality, sex, and now women. So I'm going to give you a brief idea on the status of women in Tunisia, like throughout that period and before. So in 1956, the Code of Personal Status was enacted, and it was pushed by President Bourguiba. This code gives women the right to ask for a divorce. It basically states that a woman has to give her consent before getting married, and among other things. In 1957, a woman has acquired the right to vote, and in 1965, abortion was legalized, even before America. Okay. So I chose this movie. It's called La Trace, and it was produced in 1988. It's actually the first fictional exceptional feature movie to be produced by a woman and exhibited in Tunisia, unlike the one that Wael mentioned, which was actually exhibited or showcased in France. This one was in Tunisia, and it deals with the struggles of gender and education. It follows this protagonist. Her name is Sabra, and it follows her life basically, and it shows how she's struggling to get this education in a male-centered society, in this patriarchal society where everyone is basically against her. And actually, I picked a scene from the movie, and I find it quite significant because her mom keeps saying, "I wanted a girl, and you're acting like a boy with your play and your education and whatnot." Can you show them the scene? You can focus on the subtitles.